Hey, what's up? It's Courtney. I am back on this beautiful Sunday afternoon, Easter Sunday for those that celebrate. I hope everyone has had an amazing weekend. And I thought it would be a good idea to just share a little bit of my background and my life and kind of what got me to where I am today. So I thought I would start with uh, wanting children really young. I remember being a teenager and um, really wanting to start my own family. Um, my mom and I clashed. My bio father was never in the picture for me. Um, I found out when I was a teenager that I had two sisters that I never got to know or even knew existed. And trying to build, the close relationship that they share, it's just really not possible. We can't, get back all of those memories, all of that time. It isn't possible. And then I've got a younger half brother. I was 11 when he was born. So I babysat a lot. I remember going to his daycare and helping her out, and just babysitting for some of the kids in the neighborhood when I was a teen until I got my first waitressing job at an amazing small Italian restaurant. Um, they aren't around anymore, but uh, I was there for about 3 years. It was really fun. Um, by the time I left, I knew how to do it all. So anyhow, I ended up meeting my ex-husband when I was 17, and he was 6.5 years older than me. So he was 23 at the time, and we spent the first few months just getting to know each other and becoming friends. And I think that really built a strong foundation. And uh, by the time by the time I turned 18, I had gotten pregnant and had a miscarriage around 8 weeks, the day before I turned 18. And I remember it so vividly because I was excited to go to the casino for the first time for my 18th birthday, but unfortunately, I was, going through something awful, something terrible, something I wouldn't wish on anyone. I knew I was pregnant for about 6 of the 8 weeks, and I was over the moon. I was excited. So anyway, I lost my first pregnancy, and um, at age 19, I ended up getting pregnant with my oldest son. He was born a couple months after I turned 20. Um, and, I, looking back now, I'm 43, and I've got a lot more life experience than I had back then. And I, adore my son. I would never, change having him, but I would give the advice that you want to make sure, to live life and live experience, as much as possible and really know who you are before bringing another human into the world. That is the most important job, is, teaching another human how to act, how to speak. You're their teacher, you're their chef, you're their nurse, you're their maid. You wear all hats when you become a parent. But unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of Courtney time back in my teen years. I was pretty responsible and focused and, worked, went to school, was on the honor roll, all of that. Also had 5 weightlifting records when I graduated high school. I'm sure they're crushed by now, but for me, that was pretty cool. I ran track, varsity track, my whole high school career, and then a lot of my family and a lot of my ex-husband's family, they were older and they started dying. I think we had about 8 deaths in a matter of 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm emotional. I'm an empath. I didn't know how to deal with all of that. So I started, going out and drinking and just trying to numb myself, numb the pain that I was experiencing, and ultimately that led to us getting separated and then divorced. We were married, I think it was about 3.5 years, so not long, but we were together for, I think it was about 4 years before we got married. So anyway, I actually didn't even think that I could have any more kids. I was never regular with my cycle, and I hadn't even had one in a couple of years when I met my, current significant other, I guess is a good way to put it. We aren't married, but we've been together for 12 years now, and we've got 2 kids, aged 10 and 11. The 11-year-old's a boy, the 10-year-old is a girl. So I did get the baby girl that I always wanted so badly. I really yearned for the connection that I felt was missing between my mother and myself. So I just really wanted a baby girl, and nothing against my boys. I love them, just as much. I feel like, having 4 babies, 4 live births, that I've got 4 pieces of my heart, out walking this crazy world. And there's so much that I can't control. So that has definitely been, a learning process. And as you know, the older I get and the more experience I have, the easier it becomes, to let go, or to not worry so much about the stuff that you just can't control, because ultimately, that's really a waste of time, uh, to sit around and worry about something that you have no control over. So anyhow, I met him, and I just let him know that I wasn't regular. I didn't know if I could have any more children. He didn't have any and always wanted them. So I got pregnant, I think, within the first month of us meeting. And, we kind of jumped in head first to our relationship, which I don't, recommend. I really do think that becoming friends first, and, knowing each other inside and out first, does make a difference. But my second child, there's 11 years between both my boys, and there's also 11 years between me and my brother, like I mentioned earlier. It's kind of crazy how things work sometimes. But so my second son, he was born in August of 2014, and I think around 3 or 4 months later, we had talked about, probably trying for one more baby so that he would have a playmate. And he was 8 months old when I got pregnant with my first daughter. She was born the beginning of 2016. So they're 18 months and 1 week apart. So I thought I was done with kids, and that was my intention, was, to be done having babies. But sometimes the world or God, whoever's up there, have different plans for you. So, fast forward about five years, I guess 4 years. 4 years later, him and I were having, some difficulties in our relationship. We were still co-parenting, but our relationship had really moved to the back burner, and ultimately we decided we were gonna, stay in the same home and co-parent our two kiddos. But we had both entered into another relationship, I guess you could say. I ended up reconnecting with an old friend of mine, and it was more of a friends with benefits type of situation. We definitely weren't planning on having a baby. That was probably the furthest thing from my plans. But in January of 2021, I took the Plan B pill, and they don't really advertise that it doesn't work if you're already pregnant. So even though I took it about 12 hours after um, it didn't work. And it doesn't hurt the baby, but it just doesn't work if you're already pregnant, which I did not know. Really would have liked to know, because I probably would have been even more careful. But anyways, neither of us were in a good place to have a baby, and he wanted me to have an abortion. And I have a few friends that have gone through that experience, and I watch um, a lot of women speak about regretting having an abortion. So I really didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know. And I was really alone, because I was still living with the father of my two middle children, and I had never, gone through a pregnancy alone. I went to every appointment alone. It was kind of strange, walking out of the house in October, saying goodbye, to my two middle kiddos, and knowing that I was going to the hospital to have this baby, and that I was going to give this baby to a family that desperately wanted to complete their family, but they were unable to conceive. So I think I was about 3 months pregnant. I know I had scheduled 2 abortions, but even as I was scheduling them, I just knew that I wasn't going to be able to follow through with that. And one night, in the middle of the night, I woke up, and I feel like I had an epiphany, and, adoption popped into my mind. So I hopped online. I think I typed in open adoption on Google, and several sites, came up, and I clicked on one of those, and I scrolled for, a minute or two, and I got to a profile of a family that I really thought would be fitting. I really loved everything that they were, had to say on their bio. And they had a 4-year-old that they had already adopted from Florida, actually. And crazy coincidence, but several dinners later with the adoptive parents, they brought a photo album for me to peek through, and I realized that their 4-year-old shared my birthday with me, which was just, what are the chances? So crazy. So yeah, we had many dinners, during the last legs of my pregnancy, months of my pregnancy, I suppose. And I told them that I wasn't going to be 100% sure until I had the baby, and they understood. I didn't want to change my mind and break their hearts, so I did tell them that I wanted to, wait until she was born to make the final decision, and that's what I did. I'm gonna stop here and continue on with another part 2 to come very soon. See you soon.